Got Ramon Writes, a journalist and author who talks about action movies, martial arts movies. He is the founder and the editor of Cine Beijou, which is dedicated to supporting independent film, and he is currently authoring a book about tonight's subject, the mockbuster film studio, the Asylum, best known for their Roger Corman-esque ripoffs and airing their crud on SyFy Channel. We're talking about their most famous, or shall I say, most infamous Sharknado, which franchise, which also crossed over with SyFy Channel's Lavalantula. Welcome.
Thank you, Cam. It's good to be here.
I'm sorry for the
Can you
wait.
hear me okay?
I can. You sound great. Yeah,
Thank you.
You got a lot on your plate. I've seen a lot of those Kung Fu Kingdom and a bunch of other martial arts review sites, so I might have seen some of your reviews, but that's awesome.
Thank you. Well, thank you for reading. I really appreciate that.
It's not easy to do, and I'm just glad there's still no shortage of various blogs that get started up, get exclusive interviews, so it's no longer just look at the first few clickbait sites and everything.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
And so, what truly brought you to the whole center stage of wanting to follow these deliberately cheesy blockbusters that make fun of other blockbuster movies?
Well,
I've only seen, as a disclaimer, the first Sharknado. It was a Rift Tracks live event, and it was wild how they did sendups of everything from Independence Day to other shark movies and freaking chainsaws.
Pretty much. Yes.
Like, and Lavalantula is best known as being a police academy reunion. Steve Gutenberg, Michael Winslow,
Absolutely.
the other gal that makes the screaming noises. It was fun.
And in the first Lavalantula, I think there's a blink and you'll miss it moment from Leslie Easterbrook herself, also from Police Academy.
I believe so. I missed it on the first viewing, but someone pointed it out in another Blogspot review, and
she is in there. So you asked me what drew me to write to these crazy
cast
guys
members.
Yeah. Well, look, I grew up in the 80s at the sort of height of the VHS.
You were there when the towers fell. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I was there when Nom happened. Yeah, man.
You weren't there, man. You weren't there.
You should have known, man.
But no, I mean, as you know, the VHS era didn't just allow for big screen stuff to be shown at home, but also created a market whereby filmmakers made films specifically, straight to video. And then that evolved to DVD and streaming and so forth. So, I grew up on independent movies like that. Roger Corman was one of my favorite, it still is, one of my favorite filmmakers.
I actually did a fun special with favorite 5 from fans, and we decided to talk about our top 5 movies he directed. So we had a bunch of stuff on there, and he's got 60 directing credits to his name, so it wasn't easy. There wasn't any crossover really, but I will cry like a baby when he passes away, just because everyone else will know him just as, hey, yeah, he launched these famous actors and directors' career, Ron Howard, Jack Nicholson. It was like, that's only a segment of it. How about the fact that he kind of started the whole do-it-yourself with all the Burleigh Gordons and, Full Moon, Charles Bands of the world. He's kind of the one who plays up the whole have awesome, sexy actors, campy dialogue, and a fun monster.
And the Asylum carry on in that tradition. It's the same kind of thing.
Bingo.
But what drew me to the Asylum is I grew up on what they call mockbusters, but what is really known as drifting. So basically making a film that's derivative of something that is the popular trend.
Yep.
So
half the time you're watching it and you're not realizing, wait, that's
exactly. But case in point, Battle Beyond the Stars was derivative of Star Wars, which was produced by Roger Corman.
Fair enough.
I think really what drew me to the Asylum, and this is a true story because it'll be in my book in the introduction. I was watching what I thought was The Day the Earth Stood Still, the Keanu Reeves remake, being a fan of the original film. I was curious to see what this was going to be like. And so I was surprised when it was showing on SyFy. But it didn't take me long to realize that, hang on a second, there's no Keanu Reeves, there's no Jennifer Connelly. Where the hell is Kathy Bates? Oh, but it's got C. Thomas Howell in it.
Me too. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, and this
And
is meant to be campy, not serious. Ooh.
exactly. Although I did quite enjoy that one. That was directed, I believe, by Shane Van Dyke, who I spoke
Mm.
to about. When
Oh,
I
wow.
looked at the film, yeah. So when I looked at the film, I realized, okay, I was duped. This is clearly
I
a
was
ripoff. I'm going to
too.
call it.
And
Yeah, we've all been there.
well, so what do you make of them? How they essentially they sometimes intentionally are messing around, and other times they're being serious. How do you handle the various change in tone?
I just go with it. I like the fact they changed the tone. It keeps you on your toes. There's a real problem with film studios, filmmakers, where they just keep churning the same stuff over and over again, and it's been there, done that, bought the
We'd rather
t-shirt.
suffer for this than the big budget stuff that should know better.
Exactly, exactly. And when we get onto Sharknado and Lavalantula, I'll touch on that. But I just go with it, and the fact that it's also varied is why it's so entertaining. And it's interesting. People think that they rip off, the big Hollywood blockbusters,
They're making
mockbusters.
fun of them.
Yeah, well, they are, but they're actually doing their own original stories, and some of them are quite serious, and some of them are just very tongue-in-cheek fun. In some
Yep.
ways, they're better than some of the
I
big
think it
screen stuff.
was one of the versus movies they did. It had like Elizabeth Rome from
Hmm.
Angel and Law and Order, and then they had Christopher Judge from Stargate, and they were
Hmm.
playing characters named Laverne and Shirley. I was like, I see what you did there.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
I saw Battle Dogs, which had Wes Studi from Last of the Mohicans and Dennis
Hmm.
Haysbert from The Unit, and that was pretty bad, but that was still, it
Hmm.
was funny at first because you're like, is this
Yeah.
serious? It's like, kinda, sorta.
Hmm.
It doesn't really matter. It's giant dogs that kill people.
But that's another thing, Cam, is these guys make these films on very low budgets over a quick turnaround. It's something like
Mhm.
it's got to be something like $5 million now. Before it used to be 1 or 2 million. It's got to
I
be in the
bet.
five.
I
It's got to
bet.
be in the 5 or 10 million mark now. But they turn them around in 10 to 15 days. Yet they somehow managed to attract all these familiar names: Christopher Judge, Elizabeth Rome, C. Thomas Howell.
They get it.
Uh,
They
And then
absolutely get
you
it.
go on to Sharknadoes, you've got all these big names from all over making all these strange cameos, and
Yep.
it's great. They don't do it for the money because I don't think they get paid that well, but they obviously love what these things do, and also the Asylum gives some of
It's
these
like a
actors or these
convention
yeah they
appearance
give them
is
exactly, but they give them these opportunities to direct and do pictures. See,
mhm.
Thomas Howell's directed a few. Bruce
I bet.
Davison, who is the senator from X-Men,
Casper
who's
Van Dien, yeah.
yeah. So Bruce Davison was in Titanic 2, and he went on
Yes.
to direct Bigfoot for the Asylum. So
Yes.
I think there's just something about the Asylum that draws people to not just want to watch their stuff and enjoy it, but to want to work with them as well.
They're very nice people. What's funny is I once saw them quoted as saying, "We don't want to do cheap knockoffs and everything." It was like interesting. And so they have now made this mockbuster studio.
Hmm.
What do you make of overall just their wanting to, uh, I wouldn't say necessarily want to be taken serious, but also how they're getting bigger budgets and now they're letting their stuff be parodied by riff tracks, which I'm sure is even
Hmm.
wilder because you're already a campy movie.
Well, from the conversations I've had with them, um, they do take their work seriously. They might turn around. Can I swear, by the way?
Fuck, fuck, fuckity fuck.
I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah, it is a
They might,
yes.
they'll go on Twitter or X as it's called now. They'll be in interviews and they'll say, "Hey, we make shit movies. That's what we do." But really, they do take their work seriously. These are guys who grew up on Jaws, Close Encounters, all those ground and Star Wars, all those groundbreaking stuff, and were the Super 8 generation. So they want to make, joyful, entertaining films. They don't set out to make bad movies, even though they joke about it. But they just make movies that are fun, that are entertaining, that tick all the right boxes. You sit down with a bag of popcorn, feet up on the table, it's on the box, and you're thinking, yeah, that was an hour and a half. I won't get back, but I'm okay because I've laughed, I've gasped, and I come out of it thoroughly entertained. And that's certainly the impression I get from having spoken to them. They take it seriously, but they are having a ride doing it. They're having a fun time doing it.
Mm-hmm. I was a big fan of Mike Mendez prior to that. I had seen just all the other goofier stuff he had done. Like I think he did one called like The Vault or something, which was like a horror movie and a Dog Day Afternoon type, Die Hard type parody.
Yeah.
Big ass spider, and then now he did one which was kind of a tribute to Dolph Lundgren's over the top movies. You know, Don't Kill It, and of course everyone tries to kill this monster that can't be killed. So it's just wild how some of these guys have just kept on.
Yeah. Funny story about Mike Mendez actually is that about 10 years ago I went to Fright Fest. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a big horror. You've heard of Fright Fest, yeah?
Totally. Yeah.
So one of all the films that premiered there, the one that always sticks in my, I mean, many do, but the one that sticks in my mind consistently was a film called Zombievers. You've heard of it? Yeah,
of course. Yeah. And I've only seen the trailer, but it's, yeah.
Oh, you should see the film. And I think if they had released the theme at the end as a like on streaming or as a single with a video to go with it, I think that could have been a bigger hit than it was. But because it's the very monocle of Earworm. But I tweeted that I've just seen one of the best monster movies in a while, and that my review of it for a platform I was managing back then would be up soon. So Mike Mendez was on Twitter back then. It was quite a, people were more reachable.
It's a new deal. Yeah.
He tweeted me back and he said, "Glad that you like monster movies. I've got a film that I think you'll love. You need to review." Oh, what is it? So he sent me this link to the film, and it was Big Ass Spider.
Big Ass Spider. See, and I'm sure getting into his line of work, he knew. Obviously, they all know what they're making, but they don't always know how. I'm sure they're keen on marketing and what goes into that and how.
Of course.
Yeah, it's.
And I think Mike Mendez, like you said, is one of those guys who appreciates that there are genuine blogs out there that are passionate about film, that are passionate about indie films. And so the more of, and these are the people who go out and will write about them and promote them. So of course he's going to reach out to any independent writer and say, "Hey, I've got a movie out that
you got to make this happen." Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's something I think the Asylum have kind of tapped in as well.
Someone had to take their place, and if it wasn't them, then SyFy Channel would have done it by their own, 2 feet before they even got. And isn't it wild how Jim Wynorski and Fred Olen Ray, the whole guys who do, Skinflix for Skinamax and other stupid, Roger Corman movies, pretty much got contacted to do their stuff as well, and the same kind of deal. They would anyone who has gotten any of their movies, buy them, even if they're a big piece of shit. They often have a hysterical, like self-deprecating commentary track where they're just like saying, "Look at this! I got the shot out of focus." It's like, well, if you say so.
Yeah, actually, one of my favorites of that is a guy called Oliver Harper. He runs a YouTube channel, Retrospectives and Reviews. He actually wrote and directed the documentary In Search of the Last Action Heroes. And he does all these retrospective reviews on YouTube, but he also does these commentaries. He invites people on. And he looks at big films, small films, any films, and they'll just do an hour and a half of commentaries. And it is absolute gold. It really is. But that's anything like that, yeah, absolutely love it. By the way, can I ask, your profile picture that's on here, is that Conan O'Brien or is that really you?
That is Conan O'Brien, yes.
Is he your twin?
I wish he was.
Yeah, he's quite something. So you got me here, shoot. Should we talk Lavalantula, Sharknado?
So Sharknado, there are 6 of these. I thought there was just
There are
like 5, but 6 from
there are
2013,
6, and
2018.
last year there was, for the 10th anniversary, they did a 10th anniversary edition. So it was the quality was enhanced 4K, and I believe they
Ah,
added some extra scenes in.
wow. And
But,
so what do you make of Ian Ziering deciding to have a huge ego and say, my career's back, I'm out of work, soap opera, B-movie actor. I've gotten David Hasselhoff, Bo Derek, I've gotten Vivica K. Fox, I've gotten all these different sitcom stars to be in these movies.
sitcom stars, wrestlers, pop
They've done
stars,
their own Walking
politicians.
Dead knockoffs, but yeah, they're politicians. Yeah, there was even Mark Cuban and was in one. That's like the
Mark,
presidents.
Michelle Bachmann and Ann Coulter. I mean, I
I
was
couldn't
surprised they
believe
didn't
it.
get eaten by sharks, knowing what these
They
guys are like.
they got every stupid celebrity to be in these movies. Yeah, Hasselhoff is like, jeez.
Mm. But that's part of the fun. I
Yeah.
think what makes these films stand out from anything like it is, as you know, Thunder Levin, the writer, was very keen to put in a lot of pop culture references.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, these films are very meta. Although it helps that if you're a cinephile or film nerd like us, pick your term, unless you're in on the joke, it's going to go right over your head like a flying shark.
Yep,
So,
yep. And it jumps the shark on a regular basis.
exactly. But there's so many references in there, and what's really good about it is that Thunder keeps the references within the films very, very relevant to those specific films. So, of course, there's going to be every Jaws joke, in joke under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Sharknado 2, you have 2 characters called Martin and Ellen Brody.
Yeah, total Jaws reference. Yeah.
And one of the films, I think it is the first one, Nova Clark, played by Cassie Serbo, utters the line, "Yeah, we're going to need a bigger chopper," as in helicopter, not chainsaw. Although
They would do
they have those as
marathons of
well.
these once in a while. They embraced it. And like, yep.
Absolutely, I think Sharknado is famous for many reasons. One of them is definitely, on a jokey side, making the first to make chainsaws cool since the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But the other thing about Sharknado, this whole saga, but especially the first one, is the ability of the Asylum, especially the partners David Latt, Paul Bales, and David Ramawi, their ability to, how can I put this, to use platforms and trends to their advantage. So back in 2008, 2009, when they released Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus, it was a huge viral hit. YouTube was in its infancy, so the
Yep.
clip, some of the clips were on MTV, but they had over 1 million hits over a ridiculously short period of time. And I think to this day, the infamous scene of the megalodon flying in the air and bringing down a 747 is still one of the most watched.
I
So
bet.
cut forward 4 or 5 years later, and then you've got Sharknado exploding on Twitter with virtually every famous people talking about it.
I mean, hell, there was Shark Attack Free Megalodon with the whole "I'm gonna go home and eat your you know what." And
that was
so I think monster movies in general have always had that kind of infamous deal where it's like they didn't really just go there. But and those are a whole different animal because those filmmakers are taking it serious. They're oblivious to how dumb it is to make a cheap cash in, and meanwhile they're still getting
absolutely.
Everyone wants to see it because the cover is cool at the video store. You just can't help yourself. Curiosity kills the cat every time.
Yeah, but again, you see, it's these guys. They've got their pulse. They've got their finger on the pulse of what
They
of
do.
the world community.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's talking about their films, they're in there. And as soon as somebody famous talks about it, that's it. It goes completely global. And I think Sharknado went global in a way that even they didn't
No, they couldn't have known.
appreciate
They knew it
or
was
didn't
gonna
think it
kill,
would.
but they didn't know it was gonna kill that hard.
No, No, it didn't.
They just figured, hey, people want to watch this. Is like, hey.
But you know something? I think some of that, the reason it was so popular as well, is down to the writing and the direction. I think Thunder Levin's script for a low budget film like this is very slick. It's very clever.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, there are some plot holes in it, like the whole notion of
Sure, you think?
Sharknado.
I'm just
But
kidding.
as he said in an interview, and as he told me, he bases as much as he, in writing those 4 films, he based as much as he could on scientific possibilities.
Eh.
So case, true story. Case in point, he said to me that when the idea was given to him to write this film, which was originally titled Shark Storm, when he was given the green light to write it, he actually did some research and read a story of a village in Australia. Every so often, there is don't jump the gun just yet. There is a tornado that scoops up all this fish from the sea and then just drops it on the land. So he took that idea and then expanded it into what became Sharknado. But there's all sorts of it's all sorts of things he looks at. Well, okay, we want to make it fun. We are making something that's quite ridiculous, but let's see what we can do within the bounds of realism. So I've watched these films enough times. I'm still looking for the realism, but
that's wild.
And as for sharks in space, for Sharknado 3, oh hell no.
Well, because every franchise goes to space eventually. So,
well, if Fast and Furious even went into
Mission
space,
Impossible, Jason X, yeah, it's just Leprechaun. They should buy the Leprechaun franchise and do that. It'd be funny.
And Hellraiser Bloodlines.
Hellraiser. I take it you listen to Asylum case studies.
Asylum case studies? No, I don't listen to.
So we've had that host on here a few times, Tressa Slater, and she loves just ridiculing all the wacky, just nonsense and having fun with it. You get a kick out of her show.
You'll have to send me the link to that. I'll definitely check it out.
Asylum case studies. Yep.
Yeah. But you know, the Sharknado films, yes, they are cheesy, and yes, they are a little bit.
I couldn't tell. Just kidding.
But did you say you've only seen the first one?
I have only seen the first one. I might have seen parts of either part 3 or 4, whichever one had Mark Cuban.
Oh hell no, part 3, I believe, was the one with Mark Cuban as the president.
Okay, yeah. So that's the one I saw a bunch of. I couldn't. I had trouble with the other stuff. They are fun in the right mind. I don't know. I kind of like some of the just more deliberate ones that Roger Corman's done, like Dino Shark versus Sharktopus or whatever, just stuff like that.
Wasn't there one called Sharktopus versus
Werewolf? That's what it was. Yeah, and
that's the one. Yeah, and there was one with a pterodactyl cross with a piranha.
Conan O'Brien, speaking of, he gets killed in one of them. Yeah, it just was such a ballsy way to just start that stuff off to where you're like, really? We're doing this right now? Okay.
But I'll tell you something. I'll tell you what's delightful about these films, and to an extent Lavalantula, is that for film nerds like us, who really are all about the details.
No, I'm just kidding.
Film geeks, film nerds, cinephiles, whichever one sounds best for you, is all the pop culture references, all the film references. I mean, Sharknado 2 is set in New York. So, because remember I said Thunder makes the references very relevant. So Sharknado 2 is set in New York, and you've got Judd Hirsch in it as, wait for it,
as a taxi driver. Yeah.
Taxi, yeah. And at one point, he does a U-turn in the middle of the street, and if you listen very carefully, you will hear someone yell, I'm walking here. Midnight Cowboy, Dustin Hoffman. There's all these specific New York references, which is just great. So like I said, for film nerds like us, you watch these films and you're in on the joke. You pick it up and you think, wow, that's great. But the trick to those things, though, is how you work it in and keeping it relevant. And that's Thunder's gift, I think. He doesn't just throw random things in there, making you scratch your head and go, now, why have they just thrown that in? That makes no sense. It all makes sense. It's all relevant. So, and I think for me, that's really what makes it fun. And don't you, that there is a crossover between these two sagas?
Yeah, that's why
Lavalantula.
I figured we'd talk about them all at once because it is very fascinating. And Gutenberg's character is a blink and you miss it. And I think it's movie 4.
It is Sharknado, the fourth awakening.
He just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, SyFy and Asylum, they can do that, and they're both like, hey, how you doing? They're making fun of the whole buddy stuff. But yeah, I am big fan of Lavalantula. Mike Mendez got it. The crew who did part 2 totally got it, and I mean, part 2 they are lampooning. Everyone's in Miami Vice clothing, and the opening segment of Lavalantula where he's like a crappy action movie star, getting Tony Almeida from 24 is interrogating him, and some of the other B movie actors who are in there that their game.
Yeah. Well, what I thought was sort of eye opening, if you like, not in terms of I wasn't aware, but just I was watching this film thinking, I can't believe I'm watching this film. But first off, I actually thought, God, Gutenberg looks good in this film. He's obviously keeps in shape, looks after himself. He looks really good considering it's been 30 odd years since Police Cat. He's
always been a decent actor. He's just like many of these guys who are in these movies, their careers didn't go exactly the way they were thinking. So
But that's the thing, and he's playing an actor who is in that position. The irony is that he is playing not an over the hill actor, but he's an actor whose his better days are behind him, and now he's in cheap B movies with, like you say, Tony Almeida from 24, Carlos Bernard, doing a cheesy villain accent, and he's as down in his career as he can get.
That's why I like the beginning. It just sets you up for this whole thing, and you're just like, yeah, we went there.
But Lavalantula was good because, first off, big spiders, more big ass spiders.
Instead of trying to be creepy and everything, like it's embracing the absurd. It's just going in a fun direction, wraps it up, keeps it barely. They're barely 90 minutes. I felt like it went by real fast. I just love it. The dialogue is just witty and like they are on fire. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And there was some lovely little, again, you've got your film pop culture references in there. Now I don't know LA too well, but there's a restaurant with the globe on there. So when there's an earthquake, it shakes the globe. The guy in a fedora and a messy shirt running down the street, a la Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice little touch.
Those were fun. Yeah.
And some of the lines, and
Mendez has a way of just saying, oh yeah, we're going there. Like he just has kind of a way of inviting you into the absurd versus throwing it everywhere and seeing what sticks.
Absolutely. And they keep it fun. They don't.
They are well shot. Surprisingly, you wouldn't expect a movie like this to be well shot, but like
I was impressed with the quality of the film
because these are low budget movies. Yeah,
the VFX in Lavalantula, I've got to admit, okay, it's not big studio, it's not big budget. Weta Digital or ILM didn't come down off their perch to do these films, but you got to admit, these are pretty decent considering the low budget. I mean, look, people thought Joker with Joaquin Phoenix was low budget at 70 million. These films weren't even made on anything resembling 70 million.
Yeah. Well,
and yet, what they managed to do with it. I mean, and again, that goes back to Sharknado. Low budget, quick turnaround, but actually some pretty decent effects, some great scenes. It works. But Lavalantula, there is certainly in production values something very, very slick. So hats off to Mike Mendez and the other writers on the crew. I think I forget their names now, to be honest. Sign of age, I'm afraid. So to be warned. But they did a really good job with that, and same with Tulantula, which I think is a great title for a sequel.
Yeah.
It's a play on Too Fast, Too Furious. But
Absolutely.
it works.
Yeah. Mockbuster mentality. Yeah.
Absolutely. The only thing I'll say about Two Lavalantula is Gutenberg seemed to be very angry in that film. He was almost doing Christian Bale in The Dark Knight, where he had to really overemphasize his intensity. Don't know how much of that was deliberate, whether he was mocking that.
I think he was making fun of how he never got to really play the serious roles, because you've seen him be serious in some bad movies.
Yeah.
Where it was like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. But, again, that film pulls off the stops. Like you said, you mentioned Miami. They go into a store, they Kyle Reese this thing.
Yes, they do. Oh my god.
Again, if you're in on the joke, if you know it, you know it, and that's what makes these films so much fun. They go in and they come out like Crockett and Tubbs to a slightly bastardized version of Jan Hammer's Miami Vice. You're watching this and you're going, oh yeah, this is just gold, absolute gold. And again, they start off in the film dressed as police officers, so that harks back to Police Academy, and it's just great.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those films you can go back, watch over and over again, like Airplane, like the original Airplane. You can go back and watch that again, and you think you know all the jokes, you think you know all the gags and skits and everything, and then you think, hang on, did I miss something all these years? And it's the same with this one, with these ones, and Sharknado. You go back, you watch, you listen, and you're always going to find something new. And I think the reason for that is because they play out so quickly. Like you said, it's barely an hour and a half, and it goes so quickly. And because it's a very, very quick, these are very, very quick films. They don't muck about.
Absolutely.
They just get straight into the action. It all unfolds, and you come away, feeling
you can't
good.
say you don't know what you're in for or didn't get something.
Exactly. And you've hit the nail right on the head there, Cam.
I will
you know what you're getting with these films.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting with these films.
That's why we like to do this. We see so many people get heated over whether or not you liked Barbieheimer or what have you. And I'm just like, let's just talk about movies that are less divisive.
Absolutely.
If you don't like these, guess what? No one cares. It's kind of one of those things.
And I'm going to ask you a question about these films and about silent films in general. There's a lot of people who are very, very down on these films, very hard on them.
I see so many snobs on any kind of movie. I see people make fun of digital filmmaking, and I feel attacked because that's what I got.
Yeah. It's like the Asylum did a movie about 10, 12 years ago called Moby Dick 2010. And yeah, it was written by one of the studio's partners, Paul Bales. Now it's the Herman Melville book in a modern setting. So the Pequod is a submarine, and Ahab is a submarine commander. And yes, he is hunting for a giant whale because this aquatic mammal in a previous attack took his leg and left him with a scar, and now he's going to, go and get his revenge. And Renee O'Connor from Xena Warrior Princess plays.
Yes.
Wait for it. She plays Michelle Melville. Yep. And she actually utters the line, "Call me Michelle, call me Ishmael." But this is but it's a good fun film, low res VFX. Okay, again, it's an Asylum movie, turned over in 10 days. But you've got Barry Bostwick as Ahab, who turns in a brilliant performance, and you can tell he's loving every second of it. But in the script, Paul Bales actually incorporates lines from the book. Mind, he gives nearly all the best lines to Bostwick as Ahab, so he's uttering lines like, "I'll strike at the sun if it insults me," and he'll go, "Oh, he tasked me, I shall have him," and all these famous lines that have been used and referenced in other films. And it's a fun film, but it's actually very clever. And people, I think, when they look at low budget, they just see low budget. They think, oh, Moby Dick 2010, what a load of codswallop. Sorry, that was me being very British there.
Bloody hell! No, I'm just kidding. But
all right, they'll look at it, and in the words of Bill Hicks, they'll look at these films and say, "Oh, what a piece of shit." But it's not.
I'm not here to judge. But no, it is interesting because, to your point, some stuff. I mean, just like with some of these references, I feel like a lot of people have gotten stupider over time just because they got their head up their ass. They are looking at, they want it all front and center. It's like, well, the best comedy isn't front and center. There's something going on in the background. Like have you seen Ted Lasso?
No, that's something I haven't caught over here.
Okay, well,
it's on Apple TV, and I don't subscribe to Apple TV because
okay,
I subscribe to enough channels, and
it's fine. So what works about this international production is there are like 10 things going on in one scene, and you got to rewind to find all the gags that are happening. Like like you can staging, it gets points. All improv, it gets full-blown points. Like we even saw an episode because we saw that Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery were credited as the Canadian announcers in one episode. And it was one of those, we're like, where are they? And my sister's like, I think I know. We fast forward, we find the exact scene, and you had to listen in just to find those voice cameos. We're like, that's awesome. They did that 10-second cameo, and like 10 out of, a million people found that. But it's an actor's show just because the comedians are all doing their own thing. And it has something, it corresponds to what's happening in the scene, but you can tell they're all kind of in gear. They know where their character is and what they should be doing instead of just overstaging it. Like that, you're not going to find many errors of someone sitting down and then standing up in the next shot. They're all very wide angles, and they're all doing something outrageously funny, kind of like Major League or one of those other just ensemble pieces. You're just like, so kudos to all these guys here. They are all like, some of them are playing it straight, some of them are just going very hammy and over the top, but they're all in character that whole movie. And they can just say, hey, easy paycheck, goofy, campy movie, but at the same time, they knew what they were in for, and they knew it was going to be hysterical. And it says a lot for some of the actors we've talked about. Like, they're very picky about generally what they do. Carlos himself has gone on to direct a lot of TV, but for the longest time, he would joke, I went from crappy soap operas to the awesome show 24. So it's funny seeing all these guys just kind of let loose. I mean, I think there was one guy from The Sandlot who was in there also. So it was just funny just seeing, like you say, them embrace the camp. And I feel like every once in a while, I will kind of like when you have to dispute what's a Hellraiser or Die Hard kind of inspired movie. I sometimes have to do this too with what is a B movie. I'm like, it can be something big budget, but that's like a genre throwback, like Spielberg has said. Indiana Jones, it's a B picture. Alien, Star Wars, those are B pictures, but they're big ass budgets. And, Terminator started out as a low budget B picture. It was a slasher in cyborg form, but then got bigger and bigger. Those are just as relevant to the nature of a B movie as an old 40s gangster noir or a creature feature by Roger Corman. So it's annoying to have to kind of dispute that once in a while. And it's like, well, I mean, Tarantino movies, you could probably give a B movie label because they started out very low budget, very abstract, very atypical.
Yeah, that's very true. That's absolutely true. But there are big budget B movies. I mean, case in point, the Meg movies.
The Meg, Deep Blue Sea, any of those Jaws knockoffs. I mean,
well, the Meg,
Carnosaur,
Carnosaur, yeah. But the Meg and Meg 2, although they're based on books written by a guy called Steve Alton, I think it was Steve Alton.
It is,
and based on a series of books. They're Asylum movies.
Absolutely, Don the Dragon Wilson has made a career of low budget. Fight to the death movies, all these Van Damme knockoff guys, all these other slasher queens, every other Lifetime movie is kind of a B movie.
Exactly. Again,
lower budget, uh, genre expectations,
Mm-hmm.
a kind of a camp nature to it, or
Yeah.
lowbrow, if you will. I mean, every other Skinamax movie, it's just all kinds of, just
Mm-hmm.
all of them have some formula they want to follow. Whether it's I'm fighting, Lance Henriksen for a while was in a bunch of movies where he was fighting Sasquatches. Tony Todd was in a few movies where he
Yes.
was shooting zombies, capitalizing on his fame with Night of the Living Dead remake. So
That's right. Yeah. And always playing charismatic villains or henchmen
there you
since his
go.
Candyman
They
days.
are the definition of a B movie. I mean, look at Michael Ironside, every other Paul Verhoeven movie. It's just,
Yeah,
they can't help him.
absolutely.
William
But
Shatner will do a throwback to T.J. Hooker or Captain
yeah.
Kirk whenever he gets a chance, because he knows
But
it.
something? What's great, Cam, is Lavalantula and Sharknado. They embrace that. They embrace
Yes.
all of that. They know what they are. They make no bones about it.
What's your
And
favorite of the six?
of the six, still the first one.
All right.
The first always the best, but um, I kind of got a little soft spot for Sharknado 2 for um, a number of reasons. One of them being is that I met Robert Hayes at a Comic-Con event, the Ted Stryker from Airplane. And we had a little
Sweet.
chat about his, and we had a little chat about his work. Really, really nice guy. And I think he was pleased that I talked to him about something other than Airplane, but he was happy to talk about that. And I asked him, as I said, have you got anything coming out? And he says, well, I can't talk about it right now. He says, but, I have been working on something that's, it's a bit like my character from Airplane. I said, oh, okay. He said, I can't say any more.
Can't let it
And then
go.
I watched Sharknado 2, and it opens up on a plane where you've got two things being played out. Finn looking out the window, seeing sharks when nobody else does. So replaying Terror at 37,000 feet, the Twilight Zone episode. Yeah.
That's right.
And then flying the plane is none other than Robert Hayes.
Yes.
And I was just waiting for the gallons of sweat to pour down his face.
Yeah, well, and that's a spoof movie, I guarantee you, has probably been more watched than the actual thing. Like, probably more people have seen, instead of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, probably more people have seen Men in Tights, the parody, which is its own cool thing. And I feel like that's the same thing with Airplane. Less people have seen Airport, and more people have seen the spoof movie that's making fun of all those disaster films. But because it's so cool and amusing in its own right, it's just, I mean, much like Naked Gun, it's smart, dumb. That I see so many other people who, I mean, and same deal with Police Academy. It's just dumb, but it's really, really original in its dumbness. So it's, in fact, I use the Police Academy rule all the time when I get franchise fatigue. Inevitably, I just go, just be the odd number out. Just stop after part 7. There's no need for any more.
So it's film number 7. You start to get franchise fatigue.
It's where I say, we really don't need to go here. And so that's where I am with all these superhero movies. But kudos to them; they've done their own parodies of it. And I mean, Roger Corman actually did his own thing. He used to do Black Scorpion and a bunch of other just wacky stuff for SyFy and Showtime, where you're like, really? Is that really a thing? Wow. Okay, that's funny.
Well, it's funny you mentioned superhero movies and Roger Corman in the same sentence, because I hear there's talks of possibly releasing his version of the Fantastic Four. But of course, Marvel don't want that to happen. Why? Because they're going to revamp the Fantastic Four. But wouldn't that be something if that...
I have seen it. It is a lot of fun.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small-town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
It is, yeah. I've seen it, yeah.
It's, you know, something's wrong when that's like the best version and the big budget ones miss the point. But no, it's a good point. They are in brand management. They're doing what Paramount did, where they said, "Hey, you can do your own Star Trek fan films, just don't make any money off it." And then they said, "Oh, by the way, we can still sue you or remove them if we feel our brand is in violation, because we realize they're actually better than what we got." So I think any studio can rupture its fandom, and at the same time, fans can have too much time on their hands. And we're at that unhealthy point where we are. I mean, we're seeing it with celebrities. Like, I don't know about you, when the whole Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing came out, everyone was like, "Pick a team," and I was like, I don't want to pick a team. I'm not on either team, and
I was the same.
But many people want to do that. It's like, you got to pick a team, and I'm like, oh, I'm not letting people profit off all our endless debates and everything. It really doesn't matter. I'm not supporting their materials. So like, when a celebrity says something shitty on social media, I don't even need to interact. I just move on. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna stop going to their page. I mean, there was a celebrity who died recently who had done a lot of cool things, but because he who will not be named was sharing endless articles and even contributing to Breitbart. I was just like, I don't want to follow you. This is not healthy to follow you. I'm just going to have to block you and love your work from afar.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the only way to handle any situation like that, because the way I see it is, and you mentioned Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, and people say you've got to pick a side, and you got to
he or
stop
she
watching.
will never work again. It's like, well, eventually
you got to stop watching Johnny Depp movies, or you got to stop watching Amber Heard movies. First off, I don't think there's any such thing as an Amber Heard movie. I don't think she has ever been the lead.
She's always been a supporting, so we're good there.
She's always been a supporting. You're there to see Jason Momoa. You're there to see what else has she been in? Never Back Down.
She used a lot. She did that, a bunch of guest appearances, including Criminal Minds. It's like, no, you're fine. Yeah. And then, Depp, he's more of an ensemble guy nowadays. So same deal. Is like, I don't have to. I'm not going to boycott a movie because one star is a troublemaker.
No. Absolutely not. And because the thing is, when you boycott a film because of one person, then, and let's just say for the sake of argument, and I'll keep this really short, let's say you take, I don't know, a few 100,000 people.
I mean, there were some canceled celebs in some of these movies, and that was part of what made them funny.
Yeah.
See, I mean, Mel Gibson was recently in a movie where he plays a shock jock radio guy.
Another one you mean.
You can't tell me that they're not in on the joke on that.
But, just say about the boycott, if you were to take, say, 100,000 people with you, you're not hurting just the celebrity, you're hurting the director, the writer, the producer, all the extras. All
that is true. Absolutely.
When you're supporting a film, you're not supporting, it might be one person that draws you to it. You could be a Johnny Depp fan, or you might even be an Ian Ziering fan.
There's a way to compromise. I mean, we're going to talk about certain movies, but because they're by problematic filmmakers, we're not going to do tributes to said filmmaker, but we're still going to remark on the brilliance of said movies. So I will inevitably, at some point when I do some more of these actor specials, I'm going to mention some movie they've done that was helmed by none other than Polanski or Woody Allen. And I'll just say, hey, at least I'm not doing a tribute to them. I'm just doing a tribute to the overall movie in which this actor, leads the cast, and they are quite excellent in.
Speaking of problematic people in films, one of the most recurring guest cameo, he's not cameo actually, he's not an integral part of the Sharknado saga, but he's ever present, and that is Matt Lauer. Although we don't get the shows over here in the UK. We have our own morning shows, new shows. But even I've heard of Matt Lauer and the controversy surrounding him. And to see him now in this film, you think, yeah, okay.
I just remember when Tom Cruise did an interview that went south, and then they did a parody on it on Jimmy Kimmel like a few weeks later, where they made it look like he digitally punched him
Yeah.
in the face. So I think because he's never going to get work again, I think a lot of that has subsided. I think a lot of people are now questioning, just they're not standing up for bullies in the workplace anymore. And it used to be, oh, don't piss off the boss or Zach, they'll wreck your career, they'll talk shit. And I think everyone is finally learning to stand on their own 2 feet and not chicken out and actually say, hey, you know, you're out of line. You need to stop. You need to act your age. You know?
Yeah, what's that old Hollywood cliche that such bullies would bound around? You'll never work in this town again.
Yep.
Yeah, the tables have kind of turned on that in a way, haven't they?
They really have.
Absolutely. But you know, that's one of the things I love about the Asylum is speaking to the partners for the books. I have interviewed all current and past founding partners of the studio. Is they're pushy. Yes, they expect a quick turnaround and a certain level of quality, but you know, they're very, very they're very kind to their team, and they've fostered an environment on set whereby people come in looking to break into the film business, will work on every aspect of a film, and they'll go away with so much knowledge of how to make a film.
They really will.
Yeah, and actually, I interviewed a guy called Christopher Olin Ray.
Yep, who's Fred Olin Ray's son.
He is Fred Olin Ray's son. Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, that classic movie featuring Linnea Quigley, the lovely Linnea.
Yep.
I interviewed him about his work with the Asylum because he also directed a couple of my favorite films. He actually said that he went to work on, I won't name the Hollywood project because I don't think it's fair. But he went to work on a sort of a fairly big Hollywood film. It was the fourth film in a franchise, in fact. And he was there to do a specific job, but he said, I was looking at these guys and they were doing their job. He says, they don't know what they're doing. He says, I know more about their job than they do.
Nah.
And they're getting bigger bucks than me. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's usually the case. Sometimes, you know, you're paying a lot of money and you're not getting you're not getting the quality that you expect. Whereas working on a low budget film under a tight turnaround, you have to think on your feet, you have to pay attention because they're not going to repeat themselves, and you learn so much. And I think that's one of the great things about the Asylum. Yes, they are a machine of film production, but everybody comes away from there having learned so much, and they carry that into their careers. And
you have to be able to laugh this off.
And they're really big on giving up and comers a chance. There's a couple of filmmakers who've connected with me, and they had just started out, you know, co-writing or doing a bit of shadowing of the producers and the directors, and now they're directing their own movies. Like Aquarium of the Dead. If you haven't seen that film, I
have, and it's on Showtime a lot. Yeah, Vivica.
You've seen Aquarium of the Dead?
I believe I have, with Tom Sizemore and Vivica. Yeah,
and DC Douglas, who is Asylum regular, and
he's in so many of those. He's a very talented voice actor too.
He is. He is known for his voice acting. He told me on Twitter when I mentioned that I'd just seen Aquarium of the Dead, and I thought his character, he was partnered with another actor, I forget his name now. Again, it's the age. But the thing I remember is he came back and says, oh yeah, I had a lot of fun on that film, you know, improvising all our lines. And I thought, God, no wonder they were some of the best moments in the film, because they looked so spontaneous, some of the, you know. So it was great to have him feed that back to me and say, you know what, it was a 10-day shoot. We didn't have time to muck about, but we got to improvise and give the film you know, a really good lift just to elevate it above the regular sort of low budget films that you see with our improvisation. With our,
Nice.
So, and again, like I said, the guys, they really foster that. And that's probably, and that's why I'm writing the book, because I love their content. I love their product. Not all of it. Nobody is ever going to make a perfect film every time. Even Paramount Warner Brothers make shit films. Nobody's perfect. But, they make good stuff. It comes from the heart. It's designed to entertain. They know, and they foster a great working environment. And I think their story is one that really does need to be told. Especially now they've been going 25 years. They've battled the big studios
It'll be there.
Legal action. Did you know that?
Yeah. Especially the Lord of the Rings one. I think they got in some trouble.
Age of the Hobbits. They had to change to either Empire of the Elves or Lord of the Elves.
That's what it was. Yeah, Empire of the Elves.
They got in trouble with their Pacific Rim mockbuster, Atlantic Rim. I think they got in trouble with that.
If the name's close enough, they're gonna press on them, and it's like, well, that's kind of what a ripoff is.
Yeah, but which one really got them in trouble was the day the Earth. The day the Earth stopped. Fox were threatening to sue the studio. Luckily, they managed to settle it, but that could have been a real.
Sell 50 less units, you'll be fine.
Yeah, well, as it happens, the studio production.
That's why they hate it, because someone's grandma will buy that copy instead of the actual movie.
Yeah, exactly. But do you know something? That's okay, because there is, as I don't know if you know the story of how they got into making mockbusters. Their first real mockbuster was their own take on War of the Worlds.
Yeah. We said at the beginning that's how we got into it.
Yeah, so that's how they got into it, and that was written and directed by David Latt. That was his pet project. Came out around about the time of. In fact, he'd gone to. They were just when they were still distributors and only just started making movies. They went to.
That is true.
Blockbuster.
They used to just find other people's movies and distribute them.
Yeah. But they went to Blockbuster. The video chain of old. Sadly, no longer with us. And they said that
I wasn't crazy about their fees.
No,
I shouldn't have to do a monthly fee, especially if I don't go that month.
Yeah. Oh no, I did a pay as you watch thing. We had that option here, but he went to Blockbuster and he said, "Look, I've got this idea. If there's a big budget film that comes out, I might, if I were to do my own version, do you think?" I'm paraphrasing here. I'm sure the conversation was more sophisticated. How would you feel about that? And he told them about the idea of War of the Worlds, and they said, "Yeah, that'd be great because people will come in. People will love that." So he made War of the Worlds with C. Thomas Howell. It was a hit. It apparently was literally flying off the shelves. And so they went back and they said, "Can you make more of these?" And that's how it started with them. That's how they really got into it. Blockbuster said, "Give us more of this stuff. People can't get enough." And the same when they started developing the relationship with SyFy. Same thing. We need original movies. They're not going to be shown in the cinemas, except maybe as a one-off special. They're going to be shown. They're going to be beamed on. They're going to be shown on cable and satellite, and now streaming. Netflix the same. All these guys were saying,
no one could have predicted it.
Content. Can you make us some content? We'll give you the ideas, what we're expecting. And they said, "Yeah, sure." And that's how Sharknado started as well. That was a SyFy idea. Hey, we want you to make a film called Sharkstorm. Can you come up with something? Little did they know that Sharknado wasn't just about to explode in the lives of Ian Ziering and Tara Reid. It was going to explode all over the world.
You'll find this funny. I did meet her when I think around the time they were doing the second Sharknado. She was not very kind at that convention. Like, she just stormed through a bunch of people, including me, as if we weren't there. So, but I think she's finally getting back on her feet after finding all this money from these wacky movies.
Well, I can't see as it's done her any harm, because I think aside from the American Pie reunion, I don't know if she was doing much, because the thing is with the UK
Yeah.
is that when a named actor or actress or whomever goes quiet, we tend to lose track of them. It's easier to lose track of them. But chances are they're probably doing a lot of made-for-TV movies, Hallmark movies, those sorts of things in the States. But she kind of went quiet, and then she suddenly showed up in Sharknado. And, the snobs will say, oh, God, look how low her career has fallen. But I thought, no, that's a really good move, because now you're attached to a worldwide cult phenomenon.
You can be known for something else.
You'll be remembered for this in American Pie. It's given you a platform to do other things, and you look like you're having fun with it. And actually, to be fair, I was very pleased for her. I mean, I don't dislike Tara Reid. I'm not a fan either, but I was very pleased to see her back in something of some quality, doing well as a co-star. I thought it's nothing but great for her. But Sharknado, in the tradition of Asylum, did that for so many other actors. Gave them a platform or a cameo. I think Will Wheaton is in Sharknado too.
He is one of the passengers, blinking a miss,
Yeah.
and of course.
And of course, the Big Bang Theory script writers worked that into one of their episodes, because I think it was about.
Oh yeah, they're all watching the same stuff. They're retweeting clips on Twitter the next day just so they can mock each other.
But when you talk about Sharknado, Cam, I don't think people truly still get just how much of an impact it had. I mean, in Deadpool 2, Wade asked Cable so many questions, and one of the questions is, what number Sharknado are we on in the future?
Yeah.
Of course, in Sharknado 3, no, not Sharknado 3, in the 6th Sharknado, sorry, Finn Shepard asks a future self, what Deadpool movie are we on? So, they're paying that. But that, I think, indicates just how big these, and I'm not quoting me, I'm quoting what some other people say, these cheap little movies, these are how big they are across the world. And it is nearly always the small movies that become cult classics and become forever remembered. I mean, we talk about Roger Corman a lot. Piranha, Battle Beyond the Stars, his Edgar Allan, going back to the 50s and 60s when he did the Poe films, those films are classic, revered, they're still watched. It's these low budget films that are the ones that will last. It's these ones that sort of pave the way. So, and I think Sharknado has said, as the meme said, if you think that your ideas are ridiculous, just remember, somebody said, I know, why don't we make a film about a tornado full of sharks?
Fucking Sharknado. Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but you know what? They made 6 films. They made 6 films. It worked. People 10 years later are still talking about it. They'll be talking about it for another 10 years. Long after yeah, absolutely. Sadly, Lavalantula, not so much. I think Lavalantula's problem was that they used up all their best ideas in the second film. Well, the really good ideas were all in the first film, and it linked in beautifully. But I think when Mike Mendes didn't return for the sequel, you could tell there was a lot of good jokes in there. It was a lot of fun, but there was just something missing. The same reason why 5th and 6th movies don't work as well. They're still good, but 5th and 6th movies of Sharknado sadly didn't have Thunder Levin doing the script, because across 4 movies, you've got Thunder Levin, you've got the stars, and you've got Anthony Ferrante. You've got this team that works so well together.
A makeup artist.
But you take Thunder out, and suddenly you realize something's missing. I think the problem with Lavalantula, the two Lavalantula, they used up all their best ideas. And do you remember what I said?
It was just a 2-trick pony, I think, really.
Yeah. I think they couldn't have done a 3. I think we'd have all switched off.
I think everyone would have stopped laughing by then.
Yeah. And but Sharknado, the Asylum did the absolutely right thing by Sharknado. They made a 6, they wrapped it all up and said, right, that's it, let's put that to bed, because we're going to move on to other things like 3 lots of Top Gunner movies. The Top Gun mockbuster. They've made 3 of those.
Oh, have they? Jeez.
3 of those.
I haven't been at Redbox lately. So.
They're quite good. But Top Gunner. But what's interesting
Eric Roberts been in a bunch of them. There was one
he
giant
was in one of
gorilla
them, yeah.
monster one. He's barely in it for a minute. You're like, jeez, but he's like the first Bill guy. So.
Yeah. But you know what I think is funny, Cam, is
What?
It took 35 years for Tom Cruise to make a sequel to Top Gun. It took the Asylum 3 years to make 3 Top Gun style movies.
Yeah. I mean, doing knockoffs / parodies. I mean, come on, man.
But something as well with the Asylum movies, I think they're quite bold in a way. There's an Iranian American comedian called Maz Jobrani.
I love him. I'm not the terrorist, but I play one on TV. Yeah.
Oh, he's great. And he joked in I forget which of his stints it was now. Was it Axis of Evil tour or
I love that. It was so much fun. Yep.
Yeah. Or was it I'm Not a Terrorist, but I played one on TV?
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how, racially, in terms of diversity, Hollywood is breaking barriers. But he says you won't see a Middle Easterner playing an airline pilot. And he made that joke.
Yeah.
But there is an Asylum movie. I forget what it's called. I can't remember what it's called because it changed title a couple of times. I can't keep up when films do.
Oh, the one where he's playing like the agent guy. Yeah, it's fun.
But there is a Middle East. It's an airline disaster film, and there is a Middle Eastern pilot, and he is the hero of the film. And I thought, oh, Mr. Jobrani would be so proud if he could see this. You have a Middle Eastern pilot. In fact, Paul Bale said that they were woke and trendy before being woke and trendy became the zeitgeist, so to speak. So, but they were, the Asylum are quite groundbreakers in that way. Strong. Yes, their films are cheesy. Yes, they're cheap, but they don't object to doing strong female characters, strong gay characters. They're not bothered by all of that. They just think these characters will be interesting. They'll make the movie fun. Let's put them there. And remember, whilst Stallone and company spent years talking about making a female Expendables, the Expendables.
Oh, I saw that one. Yeah.
David Lapp, Paul Bales, David Ramawi, and Christopher Olin Ray went, hold our beer. And lo and behold, The Mercenaries was made with Bridget Nielsen, Christina Loken from Terminator.
I saw it. Yeah.
It's great. Vivica Fox, who is an Asylum alumni. Cynthia Rothrock, my favorite, one of my favorite martial arts stars of the 80s. And Zoe Bell, whom you know as a stunt woman. She doubled for Uma Thurman in Kill Bill.
You're talking to a B-movie lover. Yes, I know this.
And it's a great film. It's what Millennium Films, Avi Lerner, those people should have made ages ago. And now
I promise I'll have you back on for an Expendables special if you ever want.
Okay. I don't know how much I'll have to say about that, other than I walked out halfway through Expendables 4.
That would be fine. We like all kinds of. It doesn't matter if you like it or hate it. We just want to validate everybody. There's
very few films I hate. If anything, like I write reviews. You know this from seeing my bio. I'm not I don't know who your top film reviewer is that writes in the legacy media or has their own show, but we have a guy here called Mark Commode. We used to have a guy called Malcolm, who recently passed away. These are the
I just call him Mark Commode, like going to the restroom.
Mark Commode is not averse to watching an Asylum film and completely slagging it off. Doing it down, tearing it.
Which makes me wonder, is like, come on, just examine it, even if you're not the audience for it. The whole idea is, do I recommend this or was it too much? That's...
But something, whether a film costs $2 million or $200 million, that's somebody's baby. People have toiled and worked hard to produce
Someone
something.
wanted to spend time making it, so I don't know.
And so many
I
people
can't
said,
recommend all these movies, but I'm not gonna
Mhm.
just sit my ass down and be like, you can't like that.
But if somebody's going to make a movie called Sharknado or Lavalantula, I'm thinking, okay, this sounds a bit preposterous, but I'll sit down and watch it, and I will give it due consideration because group of people taken the time, spent money to make it. And if I'm going to review it, I'm not going to tear it to pieces and say, oh, the VFX was shit, the acting was wooden, and
Especially if
the
that's the
language.
point.
Yeah,
They didn't
actually,
have the budget.
have you heard of a film called Blackbird? Just Cam,
That sounds
have you
familiar.
heard? Have you heard of a film called Blackbird?
I'm looking it up. I think I. Okay, the Susan
While you're looking
Sarandon,
that up,
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill?
Yeah.
No. Blackbird is a film that was written, produced, directed, funded by, and starring Lord of the Dance himself, Michael Flatley. And it's kind of like James Bond meets Casablanca. And it's everything you would expect from what you could term either a magnum opus or a vanity picture. Now, when this film came out, well, actually, it was stuck in hiatus for 4 years. I'm not entirely sure why. And the release of the film, there was a lot of campaigning, especially by a group here in Bristol called the Bristol Bad Film Club, because I live in Bristol in the UK.
Okay.
So the Bristol Bad Film Club campaigned to get this film released. And it was finally released 2 years ago. And it got slated in the media. Mark Kermode said something like, it is the worst movie I've ever seen. And I've seen sex
He
stars.
says that about everything, though.
Yeah. So I spoke to the founder, one of the founders of the Bristol Bad Film Club at the screening that they put on for Blackbird. And I asked him, I said, do you think they completely missed the mark or were they on point? And he said something quite interesting. He said, the problem with the press, and he didn't say it as a criticism, but he did say the problem is they're coming at it from a certain point of view. So they are looking at us, they are expecting a certain quality of the production, acting. He said, and they're asking all these questions, and that's fine. He said, but is it entertaining? Is probably the most important question you ask.
Most of them won't ask that. Yeah.
And at that screening of Blackbird on the big screen in an old IMAX theatre, 200 people came to see it, and 200 people had a great time. And at the end of the day, isn't that what movie making should be about?
You would think.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Oppenheimer has a place in movies. The Killing Fields plays an important role. But sometimes you just want to watch some good fun shit. And and the Asylum certainly has plenty of that. In fact, one film I'll recommend definitely that the Asylum does, and I can't say enough good things about it, and it deserves more kudos than it got. It's a film called Foreclosed. So the number 4 and closed. And it's kind of like a home invasion thriller, and it stars Jamie Kennedy.
I think I saw that. Showtime was showing a bunch of these movies.
Yeah. I think it's a cracking movie, and it was great to see Jamie Kennedy do such a left field role for him. I thought he did an absolutely bang up job. And you had Paul Sorvino in there, and James Denton, and Marlee Maitland, one of my favorite actresses. It was a good, solid thriller with likable characters and a great villain. And that's what you want from a good thriller.
If you want someone else who might be on your wavelength for this, you might want to check out Matt Poirier of the Direct-to-Video Connoisseur.
Mm-hmm.
He does a lot of these kind of movies, and the more independent, the better. The more send up of hysterical stuff, even better.
But to get back to my question, I mean, surely these films, the Asylum movies, Sharknado especially, Lavalantula, they should be entertaining. You mentioned earlier about Steve Guttenberg cameoing in Sharknado: The Force Awakens, because Ian Ziering had a blink and you'll miss it moment in the first Lavalantula. But what's great about that scene with Gutenberg is he shows up with the mother of all villainous automobiles. pristine. He shows up with pristine. There's, was it 1957 red Plymouth Fury? It drove in by itself, playing 50s music, and Colton West, which I think is the coolest name for an actor, Colton West, harks me back to Colt Seaver's Fall Guy. And he says, she has a mind of her own and she's bad to the bone. I'm thinking, oh, Thunder, thank you so much for that. That was lovely. That was just absolutely icing on the cake. And it's entertaining. And if you're in on the joke, it's great. And that's what movies should be, by and large, And
true.
So they're a little cheap, but they're entertaining. And that's what the Asylum guys do. That's what these films, Sharknado and Lavalantula, are. They're fun. I'll tell you this: my wife, I wanted to show her the first Sharknado, and she was very hesitant. But I didn't want to make her do anything she didn't want to do. Nobody wants to do that. But one day I said, "Look, just give it a try. If you don't like it, I'll switch it on." It was on Netflix at the time, so we watched it. She watched it, and this was the biggest compliment she could pay the film. She went, "Well, I liked that better than I thought I would." And
we like surprises.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong, she hasn't watched any of the others since, and I have not forced it on her. But, for her to say, I got something from that. I got the joke, yeah. I think that's, again, kudos to the team behind that, Anthony Ferrante, Thunder Levin, the team at Asylum, SyFy, the cast. They put together a fun film that can melt even the hardest of hearts. Not that my wife has a hard heart; she's lovely, and she loves her films almost as much as I do. So, but things like that aren't her taste. So for her to sit and watch that and get something from it, I think that's pretty good going.
Totally. And it's not easy to get people on the right track sometimes, I think, just because it's just easier to bitch, really.
It is, yeah. But the thing is, films are like anything. It's subjective taste at the end of the day. There can be some pretension. There can be some there can be some. I don't like to use the word toxic fandom because that can also be used to apply people who are just passionate. But I think, some films are crap in my eyes. Some films are great in my eyes. But what I think is a bucket of crap, you might think is absolute quality, and that's fine. The world would be a boring place if we all liked the same thing. But there are bloggers, there are commenters, there are filmmakers who say, "Oh no, you can't like those films because." It's like, for example, DC versus Marvel. It's like DC versus Marvel, or if you're either a Snyder fan or you're not. I don't have time for that rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
You have your own taste. That's fine. There's something out there for everybody. You just got to find your.
I hope there is, man. It doesn't seem like it half the time. Where it's just let's just kick the shit out of each other for being different.
Yeah, there is that element. I was watching The Last Jedi the other night, actually, and it reminded me of I could not believe what I was seeing. As someone who grew up watching Star Wars from the very beginning, I was there, man. I was there back in the day. For the first time, people were outraged by this film. Okay, it's not, you didn't like it, that's fair enough, but they were petitioning J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Marshall and Disney saying, please remake this film and make it like this.
It was so ridiculous. If I hate any movie, I'm not pressing the remake button. Why do it? But we don't need another Batman versus Superman fiasco where we force this many changes. It's just like, just take it or leave it. No one is forcing you to like this. Just move on.
And that's the thing. Sometimes I long for the good old days where you watched a film, you argued with somebody about it for a little bit about why you thought it was crap or why you thought it was like the greatest thing since Citizen Kane. you talked about it, you got it out of your system, and then you moved on because you were waiting then for the next big thing. And I think now there is an element of snobbery we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
There are still people who will. There's a reviewer that I really, really admire. He's fab. I won't say his name because I might meet him one day. I want to talk to him, but he writes for Empire magazine regularly, and whenever an Asylum movie comes up, he shreds them. And I'm thinking, really, do you have to be that mean? Do you really have to? I mean, it's not your thing. That's fine. Explain why. Break it down a little bit. But
Instead of
and it's like with Mark Kermode saying that about Blackbird. Okay, it's not your thing. That's fine. Write an analysis. Do a really good in-depth podcast into why you think this film doesn't work. Suggest where flatly could have done better, and move on. But no, everything seems to be, if it's shit, let's attack it, let's destroy it, let's make sure they never make another one again, and somebody come along and remake it better.
Someone's got to take the fall.
Yeah. I think you've had that discussion on a couple of your episodes about the nature of toxic fandom and how it's a label that's misapplied, but there is that element that just completely decimate anything that doesn't fit their blinkered narrative. And like you said, that sort of pretension that if you don't see what, I think you mentioned about Mad Max as well. You were talking about Mad Max Fury Road in one episode. And
we acknowledged we had hot takes about different franchises and everything, and that's all you can do. It's just like, hey, this did a lot of things for other people. Was I or this crowd personally impressed? Or hey, we liked it. We didn't love it. Or we liked it, but not as much as everybody else. So, you got to pretty much just plant your flag and justify it. But like you say, sometimes fandom seems to think, no, I got to be the loudest voice in the room. It's like, nah, that's a turnoff.
I'll tell you what it reminded me of. I went to a Comic-Con years ago. This was in '98. It was a Babylon 5 convention.
Oh, wow.
Back when Jerry Doyle was still alive.
Oh, rest in peace.
And at this particular gathering, I was chatting with a few people. I'd made some new friends, and we were chatting away. And the conversation went to Star Trek. And so, of course, they were talking about the movies, and they were all collectively agreeing that Star Trek: The Motion Picture was the worst of the original Star Trek movies. And I naively said, well, actually, I quite like it. In fact, I think it's one of the best. That's my personal opinion. Please don't jump down my throat, and the reason I say that is because that's exactly what these people did. I got hammered for daring to say that I thought it was one of the better movies. And I thought, okay, I'm stepping out of this.
How dare we be different?
But there is this snobbery, there is this sort of feeling towards Asylum movies. It's kind of one of the reasons I'm writing the book. I think people, when they see B movies, indie movies, they think, oh, they're just churning out crap. I think Canon Films is to blame for that. Because they did actually churn out a lot of shit. But they churned out some gems, but they churned out a lot of shit. And I think people think these studios just sit here, sign off on a project, it gets filmed, it gets sent, But no, actually, the Asylum, as I've said before, they're passionate about what they do. They grew up on the classics, what we call classics now, Star Wars, Jaws, and they want to make entertaining films. They care about their product, and the story of how they got there is a fascinating one.
It is.
So I think in the book, I really want to tell that story. I want to tell their stories. Say, there's a reason why these guys have never lost money on a film. It's because of the relationships they build. It's because of the way they market their product. It's how they capitalize on trends. When something picks up and goes global, they go after it, they follow it, and they take it as far as they can. So, I'm hoping I don't know if I'll change some minds. If I do, great. It'd be nice for people to read the book and think, those guys are actually quite clever, aren't they? And in a way, they are. I mean, who else would come up with the term mockbuster, copyright it, trademark it, and And woe betide
Someone had
anybody
to
who
do
tries
it.
to. Yeah. And who else will actually dare to make a Top Gun? Again, they call it drifting. It's not mockbuster stuff, and it's nothing new. Like I said, Corman did it with Star Wars, and then there was a film called Star Crash, which was a derivative of Star Wars.
Yes.
I think you've heard of that, with David Hasselhoff wielding a very strange lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
But they make all these really good mockbusters that when you actually watch them, they're actually quite different, and there's a nice fun element to it. There's a nice serious element to it.
And
Titanic
if you
2,
don't
for
like
example.
it, no one is forcing.
I mean, Titanic 2 is quite an interesting film. I spoke to Jane Van Dyke about that because he wrote, directed, and starred
It
in it.
had to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I think I described when somebody asked me, when I said, oh, I'd watched Titanic 2. And they said, oh, who made that? Oh, a studio called The Asylum. I said, oh, what's it like? I said, well, they said, oh, is it a sequel to James Cameron's Titanic? I said, no. I said, no, it's not a sequel. I said, but if you want to compare it to James Cameron's epic of cinema, I'll say this: it's twice as entertaining and half as long.
Wow.
And they went. I said, there you go. And it was a much shorter film, but it was so much more
All you
entertaining.
need to know.
But with Titanic 2, there was a little bit of an environmental message in there because global warming was melting the ice caps, causing tsunamis, which had the impact, which then set off as DC Douglas says in that film, history is about to repeat itself. It sets all that calamitous thing off. But it was nice to have that little message in there, importance of the environment, without being too preachy. They've said it, they've done it, now let's get on with the movie. And there's a lot of that in there too. So they really do make good stuff. And the Sharknado films, I think, that's gonna be their legacy. In fact, Paul Bales has said on his tombstone, here lies the guy who produced Sharknado, or something along those lines. And I think worse things to have on your epitaph, I suppose.
I mean, whatever lands you in the place where you want to go. I feel like a lot of people also just feel like they have to be inclined to agree. I must agree. It's like, you don't have to agree at all, but they're here.
No, as I said before, it would be a very boring place if we all liked the same things. There would be no creativity. There would be no innovation. There would be no people out there taking risks, looking to break ground and do new things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we would be as adventurous to try new things. It's like if you only ever watch thrillers, or if you only ever watch romance films, that's fine. But why not break out of that and say, watch Sharknado? There's romance in the Sharknado films. What more could you want from Ian Ziering and Tara Reid as an estranged couple who rekindle their love and face, and rebuild from a divorce and a Sharknado attack? I mean, surely there's some, I think, differences of opinion, differences of taste is what really makes being a movie fan so joyful and so interesting. So, and Asylum movies can be quite polarizing, but when you get somebody who shares that passion for them, and because they've made 300 plus movies, there's plenty to argue about. Well, which is your favorite Sharknado film? Which is your favorite Asylum movie? Which mockbuster did you like? Have you seen their Christmas movies? Somebody once said Asylum made Christmas movies. Oh yeah,
I bet.
And actually, whenever
Disney, if you had a cheap B-movie company,
absolutely. And also, when Disney started doing their live-action remakes of classics, Asylum thought, why don't we do our own version? So Aladdin comes out, and next thing you know, Adventures of Aladdin comes out. Which in a way is probably far more interesting because you're not going to get a remake of something that was far better. You're going to get the Asylum's own interpretation on a classic story. The fact that it comes out at the same time as Aladdin is neither here nor there. But you know it's going to be interesting.
I would
So, yeah.
hope. I mean, just because we're getting cynical about every other thing being digital doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. I mean,
No,
I
absolutely.
see so many people who will not watch a movie just because the poster is cheap. I'm like, well, you haven't actually seen the movie. Marketing fucks up all the time. I don't watch trailers anymore because I know it's not the movie.
True enough.
So why get all angry? Just watch it or don't. Just watch it.
Absolutely.
Don't watch it.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned trailers and you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, I love a good trailer. I like sort of being teased and tantalized about upcoming films, but I'm so long in the tooth now when it comes to films. I can usually judge by the trailer whether a film is going to be good or not, or in my opinion.
Well, I that's why I don't do it, because usually it's all deleted scenes, or it's not done yet, or it's not the movie. Like the movie's a thriller, but they made it look like an action movie because they took an explosion.
Yeah, it's like I'll read reviews, but not until either if I'm writing a review and
Enough
other
people have talked about it. But
yeah. But if I'm writing a review and other people have already reviewed the film I'm about to review, I go dark until I've written the review. The same as if I'm about to see a film. I thought, let me go and see the film, then I'll make up my own mind. And I think the reason I've started doing that is because in the past, so many times I've read reviews, and it's not a taste thing. It's actually an accuracy thing. Somebody had written a review of Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow with the infamous Johnny Depp.
oh Lord,
And they did the film down in a big way, and that's fair enough that they didn't like the film, but they said something about the big reveal not being supernatural after all. I mean, everybody knows, even I know, Washington Irving's Plastic Tale. We know it's a spooky story. We know it's a scary story. But they said, oh, this one didn't have the supernatural element. And then I watched the film. I thought, what the hell film were they watching when they reviewed that? You know, Christopher Walken as a headless horseman chopping off people's heads. Witches. How is this not supernatural? What bloody film were you watching? For God's sake, I'm not reading your shit anymore because you don't know what you're talking about. And so now I try and, I might delve in a couple of things, but professionally, I won't read other people's reviews because I don't want it to sour my own thoughts and opinions. But if there's something I really want to see and I don't want, again, my mind sort of set before I go in, I'll go dark and just leave the reviews alone.
totally.
Sorry, I'm rabbiting on.
No, it's fine. I think a lot of people. I mean, I like how you're not holding back, because I see so many others who will. They're like, I can't do it.
Well, I'm 53 years old, and I think when you get to that age, you hold back less. But I don't think I'm saying anything controversial. I like to think whatever I'm saying is with all due respect, because I think all film, anybody who makes a film, I'm always in awe of them, whether they're making cheap shit films or great big blockbusters.
I love how you went straight into it. Cheap shit.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I'm in awe of people who have a vision of something and they bring it to life. I interview filmmakers. Some of my friends that I see at festivals and we catch up, they're filmmakers. I'm in awe of people with a vision who can create things and tell stories in a way I never could do. I mean, God, if filmmaking was so easy, I would do it. But no, I tell different stories.
Filmmaking, what's that? I know what you mean.
But for somebody to be able to sit down and turn out a script in 10 days, I think that's awesome. That is an incredible gift. To be able to rally a cast of actors and production crew and guide them and direct them to bring this thing to fruition, the hustle that goes into producing, I think it's I think it's a great thing to do. It doesn't matter at what level you do it.
It really
You're
doesn't.
creating something. People.
That's the other thing I'll see too. I will see people just be like, it has no value to me. it doesn't mean it doesn't have value to anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm gonna hate on something, there literally better be nothing happening to where it's like, why do you even make it? But sometimes some people like nothing much happening and pretty pictures. So I don't know. It's
true enough. And that's fine if that's what you want, but let other people consume the media they want to consume and enjoy it and discuss.
Oh man, I gotta gatekeep. No, I'm just
kidding. Exactly. It's freedom of choice. It's everything is subjective. And as I said before, we all like the same shit. We would just be stagnant as a society.
I've had other guests on here before who have gone the way of saying we all want the same thing.
Yeah, I like variety. I like variety. I will go and watch Fast and the Furious, and then I'll just keep an eye on the latest.
If we all wanted the exact same kind of movie, things would definitely get boring.
Absolutely. But I'll go and watch Fast and Furious, especially if Jason Momoa is in it again, because Fast X was great fun. But then I'll look at Asylum's updates to see if they're also releasing a latest Fast and Fierce movie, because they've done a couple of Fast and Fierce movies, which are mockbusters of the Fast and Furious. So, or I'll go and watch.
One had DMX in it. Is like Extreme to Kill or something. Yeah.
Sadly, no more because he's shuffled off his mortal coil, bless him. But it's like a couple of years ago when Dune came out. I took my eye off the ball. Dune Part 1 came out. As someone who's read Frank Herbert,
Dune really Sharks,
was really looking forward to this. And then I saw with even more delight that the Asylum put out Planet Dune, starring Sean Young. Beautiful. Best of both worlds. I get a revamped, reimagined blockbuster, big budget film of one of my favorite sci-fi novels. And I get the Asylum's take on it. I mean,
it's gonna happen.
What could be more perfect?
What else are you looking for? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, variety is the key, and having, like I said, having different tastes is great.
I mean, if drive-in theaters were still as popular as they were in the 60s to 80s, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. I think even direct-to-video would even be in a bit of a shuffle, a bit of a pickle, because I think everyone's just so accustomed to just having all those meat and potatoes just thrown in front of you. It's like, be patient.
I'm familiar with drive-in movies, but we never really had them in the UK because
I didn't really start doing it. I knew about them, but I didn't really do it until like COVID hit. That's even where I saw Sonic.
Actually, I think we don't do drive-in movies, but I think there are sometimes movie events. Like I went to a screening of Crow in a cemetery, and there's some outdoor screenings like Lost Boys in a zoo garden. But, well, why not?
Perfect.
But because I think drive-in movies weren't popular here because of the weather.
Because of the weather. Yeah.
Well, we have rain 9 to 10 months out of the year.
I believe it, dude. Weather's going to start getting even more kooky.
Yep. Sharknado certainly told me that. The weather's just going to keep getting worse each time. You think this one was
it's
bad,
more atmospheric than we believe.
Yeah, it's like in Sharknado 2. They're saying, oh, I know what to do about this. We'll just make these bombs. We'll throw them into the Sharknado. That'll be fine. Okay, that's not working. These are bigger and badder than before.
Which is how all these movies end. It's not working.
Sharknado 3. Shit. What we did before isn't working. I know. Let's get them into space. Let's fire a giant space laser.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It's, if you want to be pretentious, you want to read into these movies and analyze them, you could say, well, this is a statement of environmental, of the state of the environment. That, God, if you think torrential rain during summer months was bad, wait until you get heavy snow in the spring. You've got that to come, and you've got Arctic weather in autumn, or, whatever. If you, like I said, if you really want to read into it that much. Or, one of these days, the volcano in Hawaii is going to erupt and out come lavalantulas. Funny enough, the thing about Lavalantula actually is I find them a bit more creepy, especially when I read that apparently, you'll have to look this up and I'll have to look it up, but there's a Facebook page called IFL Science, which stands for, and I don't know if I can say this, I fucking love science. And apparently inside volcanoes, there do live or used to live giant snails.
What?
Yeah, not inside the lava, but quite near the volcano, quite near the volcanoes. And the shell is as solid as metal. But it's well insulated, so it keeps them from burning up inside. So the fact that there are giant snails that can live near volcanoes means that the concept of the Lavalantula is probably a little bit too close to reality, I mean, if these snails were spitting lava, then my God, we'd really be in trouble. Although we could run away from them because they're slow buggers. But
I mean, it's either that or turtles. We already got Gamera, so.
Well, turtles, I think, are already covered with
right.
Those pesky teenage mutant ones.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, just Gamera was the Godzilla equivalent, so I mean.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Ninja Turtles, yeah, they're already the superhero equivalent, so yeah.
Yeah, they're okay.
They're overrated.
Actually, if you're loving the Godzilla movies at the moment, you should check out Asylum's Ape series of movies. So when Kong versus Godzilla
Ape of a
came
time.
Out, yeah, they did Ape versus Monster, and I think now they're doing Ape versus Mecha.
Yeah, those were one of the ones I saw that had Eric Roberts.
Yeah. I think it's the second one that has Eric Roberts. He's doing well in the whole B movie field at the moment, isn't he? Because he was in a series, some of Roger Corman's films like Sharknado. He's getting quite a few Asylum pictures. He was the villain in Blackbird, the film I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's always been a bit of a B movie star in a way because he did Best of the Best. The karate film with Simon, the Ree brothers, and he did a few other things. He's not always been a big screen actor. He's done some.
Oh, so you mean this other one? Because there was a Sam Neill one from like 2019. You're talking about this one from 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did see
Blackbird with Michael. He was
Michael Flatley.
Of Michael Flatley. Yes.
So I did see news of this. Riff Tracks was thinking of riffing it before it even come out. I'm like, jeez, let it come out first, let the dust settle, then make fun of it.
Exactly. Then riff on it. But no, he's done quite well, Eric Roberts.
Runaway Train, Suits, Dark Knight. Yeah. He's doing good.
But you know something? Even though he's going to be remembered as a B movie actor, the other thing he's going to be remembered for is Runaway Train.
Yeah.
So,
I just mentioned.
Andrei Kozlovsky's film that Canon funded. And I thought it was interesting in the Canon documentary, Electric Boogaloo, they said if it hadn't been a Canon film, Runaway Train would be held up as a classic of all time. And I totally agree with that. So he's got that to say, look, yes, I did a lot of these movies, and yes, I know why I did them. But, I've got these in my arsenal as well, a nice mix of good quality cinema. So
good.
Yeah. And Tom Sizemore, you mentioned Tom Sizemore, he's in his last film that he did before he passed away was either The Fight for Pandora, which was the Avatar mockbuster.
Yes.
Or Bullet Train Down, which was the Bullet Train.
Good God.
Yeah, which I also enjoyed as much as Bullet Train itself, because they're two very different movies. But he seemed to enjoy a bit of a career in the B movie, and Michael Madsen as well.
Wow.
Appeared in a couple of. He's got a great line in a film called.
I saw the first Megalodon one.
Is that the one where he's
He's on
at
a
the end, the
submarine.
Megalodon breaks into the ship and he's sitting there and he's smoking a
He's
cigar
just smoking. You're like, jeez,
and he
this
tells me,
movie is all over the place in terms of tone.
I know, it's great. But there's another film, I think it's called Shark Attack, and his daughter is trapped. It's a plot taken from Two-Headed Shark Attack where they're on an unstable island that starts sinking. And there's this shark circling them, like it's a buffet, waiting for her to fall in, and that'll be like his midnight snack. And she's on the phone to her dad, who's Michael Madsen, and he utters this great line, which I think is a masterpiece of screenwriting. He utters this line. He says, "Okay, sweetheart, you've been through hell. Now you're going to have to go through high water." I thought, oh, thank you. Thank you. That film would not have worked if it would not have drawn me to it without that, because I would have thought, okay, it's an Asylum movie, but it's another trapped on an island shark movie. But when you uttered that line, I thought, yeah, I've got to see that, because that's just great. And you won't get a lot of lines or moments like that, I think, from bigger budget. You won't get I'm not saying you'll never get it at all. You're less likely to see it because they're all very serious. Everything's got to be spot on, and they don't always get it right. But they went with that line, and it worked. It worked in the context of the film. So I thought, yeah, I've got to see that, and it didn't disappoint. And Michael Madsen, I mean, he's great. He can phone a party.
He is amazing
and steal the show. So you can't go wrong with him. Especially when he played Rudy in the remake of The Getaway back in '94.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. He just steps on the screen. You're like, yeah, this is going to be a good ride. I'm going to enjoy this. It's good that Asylum can get these actors and actresses in who don't need very little direction. They're experienced, they're charismatic, they're seasoned. They bring all that to these pictures, and they just say, just point me in the right direction and I'll do the rest. And they did. Who was I watching? It's John Hurd, the late John Hurd, his classic. Case in point, Sharknado was it his swan song? I think it was his penultimate movie. Every scene he was in, he absolutely nailed it. John Hurt's always been
Home Alone, Sopranos, and there he is.
Always a very relaxed actor. You know what I mean by a relaxed actor. They just walk in and they just deliver the line and the emotion with such ease. They just make it look like child's play, and he brings all that to Sharknado, the first Sharknado film, in much the same way that Gutenberg in the first Lavalantula just walked into that part. And again, it wasn't Shakespeare. He's not going to get the Academy Award for it, but he pulled off every line.
Should there be an Academy Awards for B movies?
I think there should be a
Z movies.
Yeah,
there'll be a U Ball Award for the worst of the B movies, and then there can be a Roger Corman Award for the best ones.
Yeah, I think there should be one for the best B movie actor, best B movie actress.
We do sarcastic award shows annually on here, but yeah, there could be one telecast that would make a difference.
But because Oscars are fine, BAFTAs are fine, but they're coming at films from a certain perspective, and I think if you want to recognize films that don't fall into that category for the effort, if nothing else,
indeed,
to recognize something that does stand out from the rest, that's fine. But mind you, there are so many film festivals, and some of these films do get shown there, so they do pick up accolades. I have friends of mine who, a lot of their film careers, they make short films and they tour the festival circuit and they pick up all these gongs, and off the back of that, they then get more work. So I think the reason why these some of these Asylum films shouldn't occasionally get some recognition. Won't be the end of the world if they don't, because they'll always have their fan base. But I don't think the idea of awarding them something is too ridiculous. Maybe a little bit ridiculous, but not too ridiculous, because I've said before, people make these films. They're passionate about them. They want to do a good job. And if the effort pays off, sure, they'll be rewarded with high viewing figures on a streaming platform, high DVDs or Blu-ray sales. Maybe even open the door to a 4K restoration somewhere down the line. But it'd be nice for them to say, and the award for most brutal shark kill should go to Ian Ziering in Sharknado 3, where he flies in space into the mouth of a shark and then
somebody had to do it.
Bursts the hole, pops open a parachute as the shark falls into the atmosphere, burns up. Give him an award for that. Why not? Why not recognize?
What's stopping you? Why not?
Oh, what's stopping me? I have other things I need to do. But hey, if somebody creates an award for that, I'll watch. I'll watch it. If Mike Mendes comes back and does Lavalantula 3, I'll be skeptical, but I'll watch it. I'll give it a fair crack.
Someone's got to do it.
Absolutely. And it's like the Asylum now. I won't fall out of love of Asylum movies. There will always be good ones. There will be bad ones. They are. I'll say this, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they are now sticking to what is popular, and that is the mockbusters. They will do some left field movies.
They'll do them until we don't want to see them anymore, and they'll still do it, and then make fun of how we don't want to see them.
Exactly. But, they seem to be now... A friend of mine said it's lazy filmmaking. I said no. They are one of those film companies who learnt the mistakes from Canon films. They've got a business model that works.
They will milk it until there is a decline.
Absolutely. They don't overstretch their budget. They don't try and... Somebody once... I got asked, why don't these guys...
They work on the name the most. You're going to see it on the name alone, even if the movie is bad.
But exactly. And I got asked, why do these guys make a big budget film for this? Why don't they get cinema releases? And I said, because they have a model that works. If you stray too far from that model, you run the risk of total humiliation and your business could go down the tubes if it doesn't work. Because, you've got to raise the money to make that film. And then off the back of that film, raise more money to make the next one, because chances are that went over budget. You read about some of the big Hollywood productions, some that have gone way over budget, and of course don't perform at the box office, and they lose money. David Latt, Paul Bales, David Romawi, they've got a model that works for them. They've got a fan base that is eager and waiting for the next.
Oh, eager as can be. So many of them will show up, even just as tornado sharks.
Of course, or ice sharks is one I would treat. They seem to be doing a lot of mockbusters, and they're doing a lot of shark movies. But that's because there is a taste for it. I think there's a real taste for shark movies, as evidenced by the fact that you've got a documentary in which the guys from Asylum feature the shark exploitation documentary that's on Shudder.
Oh wow!
Somebody I know called Rob Hill, who wrote the Bad Movie Bible, actually did a you know that book, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He did a Jawsploitation feature on his YouTube channel. So people are intrigued by shark movies and want to see more of that.
It brings out the wacky side of life, yeah.
Exactly. I don't know why people want to see sharks eat people in the water, and then will happily jump in the ocean themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the Asylum guys have tapped into something that works. They have a fan base. They know that SyFy or whomever will come to them and say, we'd like you to do... So like with Z Nation, for example. Z Nation ran for 5 years, was a big hit on SyFy, and then Netflix picked up, I think, the last couple of series. I'll have to get clarification from that when I get the guys to sit down and chat with me again. But Netflix, I think, picked up an option, and then they all turned around and said, "Why don't you do a follow-up?" You mentioned Black Summer throughout the series. The time when it all started with the zombies.
The spin-off of Zombie Nation, Z Nation, yeah.
Yeah, but just like The Walking, there was The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. you've got Z Nation, and you've got Black Summer. You know,
yes, you do.
but Z Nation is another one that's full of those cinephile pop culture references. In fact, I posted something on the Asylum page. It was under the section under the hashtag Friday Fun. Which rolling ball is more dangerous? The ball of critter pelts from Critters 2, the next course, gas, or the rolling
Nice.
zombies from Z Nation? Which one is more dangerous? You know, but somebody obviously saw that and thought, yeah, we need to put that in here because that's going to be fun, and it worked. So, yeah,
Nice.
I'm still, just so you know, I'm still writing the book. I've done 2 chapters. I haven't spoken to a publisher yet. I'm trying to finish the blooming thing first, and I've got some more research to do. But I'll tell you what, once it's finished and a publisher is online, I will let you know.
Sweet.
And if you want to talk more about that, and maybe I'll read you some excerpts, happy to do that for you.
This sounds like some pure dedication. Glad we got to finally do it. And I better let you get some shut eye. But man, talk about just there's no limit to nutty, even when there is. Like people will milk it and not go to town. But how cool that you get to make sense of the fun nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much really to make sense of. I mean,
it's there, but ultimately, kind of like whose line, the points don't matter.
Exactly. At the end of the day, these films, like Sharknado films, Lavalantula films, they put a smile on our faces for a whole host of reasons, whether it's the preposterous nature of what they're presenting, which is a tornado of sharks or giant lava spitting spiders. You might find that entertaining. Or like I said before, I've said time and again, for us, it's spotting those little references. You know, let's Kyle Reese the shit out of this. And hey, I'm walking here, you know, scene in Sharknado, and all those little references. You know, we can spot the joke and go, oh, that's brilliant. I love that. When's the next one coming up?
Yeah, right.
So, you know, are they nutty? Yeah, but you know what? These films put smiles on our faces, and what's wrong with that? You know,
nothing.
Let's have more.
That's the answer. Nothing's wrong. Oh,
Okay.
Man. Always a delight, sir.
Oh, it was a pleasure talking to you, Cam. I really like your show. I'm following it with great aplomb. It's a great show.
Very kind. Very kind.
Keep up the good work.
I try to be as, again, diverse as we can be, just have a little bit of everything for everyone, and don't want it to be to where we're just like, hey, you know, only talk about this, only talk about that. It's like, no, let's actually kind of bring everyone out of their comfort zone and do something fun.
That's always good. And actually, it's always good to be out of one's comfort zone.
It is. You find out even more why you do or don't like something actually in many ways.
Do you know, it's funny, because I think when I explain Sharknado to people, I'll keep this short. They all say, well, what's the appeal of it? And I explain it to you, and I explain it similar to you.
Just what we've been doing for 2 hours. And,
yeah, but I say
and they will shrug, they'll give up,
yeah.
They'll just be like, some of them don't even want to make sense.
Yeah, but I say to them, guys, you've got a film in which Robert Hayes is flying a plane that's being attacked by a Sharknado. Before that, he's arguing with his co-pilot whether they're going to have the chicken or the fish. Never mind the Sharknado. It's Robert Hayes back in a plane. So what are you going to have, the chicken or the fish? And you want to go, don't have the fish. It's going to be...
the chicken or the egg. Never gets old, that argument.
Chicken or the fish. That's right, I had lasagna. Fish. Famous line by Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, man. Miss Leslie, there's another perfect example. The man who went from doing absurd movies to then doing movies that were deliberately in on the absurdity. And we need more of those.
Agreed.
Kinds of actors. So yeah, I will link many of your stuff. Links on here. You plugged your upcoming project. Man, you're welcome back anytime. Just for, as you say, the book once the book tour resumes.
look forward to it. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this.
Always fun.
Definitely a fan. I'll keep posting on the show. And yeah, if you want to talk about anything else, happy to oblige.
Perfect.
Okay. Have a good rest of the day, Cam.
Absolutely. Likewise, get some sleep.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
And be sure to put up your curtains and drain the sink and make sure no sharks are sneaking in.
Definitely do that.
Not that they would, but you never know with this absurd science in these movies. Yeah.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a Jack